So, when looking at a comparison of the United States and Australia and the services that they have out there that are offered out there for siblings of an individual with a disability, the U.S. seems to have a lot more organizations out there nationally to provide support, books, things like that for parents and siblings, and how what it's like living with a sibling with a disability, and what parents can do not only for their sibling with a disability, but for their or for the child with a disability, but for their child that's typically developing child, and how they can help them. Um, I did find that there are some of the same books are recommended by the Southern Government of Australia, um, uh, Ben, King of the River, and Let's Paint the Octopus Red, were two books recommended in Australia and also recommended in the U.S. for kids to read if you have a sibling with a disability. Um, Overall, though, the U.S. Has more organizations, more opportunities, more resources for siblings, and not just like for parents and how to teach and how to help their child cope with having a sibling with a disability, but um, but for the actual sibling, like the U.S. has camps and conferences and representatives for each state, and things like that. More directly associated to the sibling, because I think that's one of the things that's very important when it comes down to this, is it being centered on that sibling, because that's one thing that's not, we have things for the individual with a disability, we have things for parents with having a child with a disability, um, and we have, tips for parents and how to help their other child who, is a typically developing child cope with it. But, there's a lot more things in the U.S. that are directly related. What I was impressed with Australia, though, is that they have the different categories. Youth SIBs, teen SIBs, adult SIBs. That was one thing that the U.S. doesn't really aim at. They just aim at siblings overall. They do have, different tips for different ages of siblings, but, no defined categories like Australia had laid out. Um, so those are a few things that I found when comparing the services that are out there in the U.S. and in Australia.